So just as a test, let's start with the first question. Get comfy, you're good?
Yeah. My full name?
Yeah.
Or Joseph Jacob LeBlanc, but everybody calls me Joe. I was born in Memramcook, New Brunswick, 1934.
What were your parents' names?
My dad's name was, he was baptized under the name Roman, but everybody called him Raymond. My mother's name was Lumina, and everybody called her Lena.
And what do you remember about them from your childhood?
Well, they both worked hard because it was during the Depression, and they didn't have everything to get by on. It was, but everybody was the same, so you didn't know the difference between good and bad. You just try to survive. There was no money.
What did they do for work?
Well, my dad worked at CN. My mother stayed at the house all the time. Yeah.
And tell me about your brothers and sisters.
Well, my oldest sister she was the oldest of the family, and there was 5 boys. My oldest sister was adopted by my aunt. We lived side by side, and she had 7 or 8 miscarriages. So she started taking my sister at her house for a weekend, 4 days, and finally she told my mother, "Why don't you let her live with us? We got no kids and you got 5. So she lived with them pretty well until she got married. And then the oldest worked at number 5 in Moncton, the oldest son, brother. And my other brother, Camille, drowned in Hearst, Ontario, 24 years old. And my other brother, Leonard, worked at CN for 18 years, and he left. He went to the States. He's retired now. He's 94 years old. He's in bad shape. His wife's got Alzheimer's. And my youngest brother was Ronnie. He died, I think he was 84. So that's the whole. There's only me and Leonard left now.
And you just turned 90.
I just turned 90 last Sunday, March the 10th.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
What was it like growing up in Memramcook in the 1930s and 40s? You mentioned the Depression.
Oh, it was really bad. Everybody was on equal terms because there's no work, no job. I was 15. I worked in the service station 6 days a week for $3 a week.
50 cents a day.
That was pretty tough. That's why I left at 16. I went to Toronto.
You mentioned that in the past, you would trap rabbits.
Oh yeah, I used to go. I was 8 years old, and I'd go out there about a couple of miles in the bush, and I'd set snares, and I'd come back, have a couple of rabbits on my shoulder, and they're dragging on the ground. I was such a little guy. I learned how to clean them. I had 2 big nails on the shed, hook up the cut in their back legs, and I used to pull the skin right over up to their head and then cut off the neck.
That's what
so
you had to do.
We had rabbits too.
This was war times, I guess, when you were 8.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I remember when the war was over, my brother Camille arrived with a big flag, 4x8. We tied it up to the front of the shed, the backyard.
Really?
Yeah. We didn't have plumbing inside. We didn't have hydro. I remember when a couple of guys from Dorchester arrived with a couple of poles. They were digging everything by hand. to run the wire to the house, and we hired a guy to come over and fish the wires.
Yeah, install electricity for
Yeah,
the first time.
it was bad. It was pretty bad.
So you moved away at 16?
Yeah, I went to Toronto. My mother gave me $10. Oh, I had $10. I had to work in the dill pile. 9 hours a day in the mud with 6 inches of mud, carrying those that wet lumber. You cut lumber, just grab it, and put it on dry land, and that one shoulder came way below the other. One night, my dad called me. He says, "Come here," towards me. I walked in there, it was all tilted. I didn't know. He said, "You know, better quit that job because you're going to hurt your spine." And then the following week, I left with $10 and I went to Toronto. My dad was a CN guy, so he got me a pass. Didn't cost me nothing for the trip.
But then you're in a big
Well,
English-speaking city.
Yeah, my French wasn't that good. We had an English family in Memramcook named Powers, but they all spoke French. So how are you going to learn, eh?
Yeah. So you only spoke French at the time.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about your wife.
Well, her name is Rachel Godet. While they lived in St. Joseph, they had a big store. I think it was 7 or 8 bedrooms. And they were a well-to-do family. And then I think it was in October, I guess they had a big fire. The whole house went up. It was a long house, big house. And then they bought the bus company in Memramcook. I think there was 17 buses. They had nowhere to go, so they moved there and went out there. We used to go to tobogganing, down the hill, and we met, and then there was always 10 or 12 of us. And we started going together, and then she did move to Toronto, to Montreal, and from Montreal they went to Toronto. And about 4 or 5 months after, she came back. And then about a year after, I went to Toronto. And then she wanted to come back to Toronto, so I sent her the money, and her father was there. So, yeah, we went out together for 5 years, I guess. And she lost her mother. She was only 15. So they pulled her out of the convent because there were 8 kids. And then finally, when they all moved to Toronto, we kept going together, and finally in 19 she wanted to get married. I thought I wanted to wait another year. But her father talked to me and he said, "Well, if she wants to get married, don't miss out." I said, "She's a good girl." And he says, well, I got married young too, so he says, "Don't be scared." She had a little job. I had a little job. I worked a lot of overtime too, because I wanted to run my car. My car was a big thing for me.
What was your first car?
1941 Chef Coupe.
1941 Chef.
Two-tone. Cream and green. And then we had 3 kids. We had a dog, I think we were 20 years old. We just kid ourselves.
Yeah.
And then Bruce came 2 years after, and Suzanne another 2 years after. So we grew up with our kids.
Yeah. You were still kids, really.
Oh, yeah. And that $800, and I borrowed $800 from credit union, and I bought a house for $1,600. It was $14,995. I give $1,600 down. That's back in 58 or 59.
So when you first got to Toronto, what was the living situation? Was it an apartment?
Oh no. I got there, I had $10. I went in there and rang a doorbell. There was a sign for rent. I went there and third floor, June the 12th. It was hot. It was like 95. Climb up on the third floor, little room. There's another guy there. And we paid each $3 a week. Well, it didn't take long for me to spend that $10. So I looked for a job. Finally, I got a job, and well, they made caps, all kind of caps, and anchor cap. And I started at the bottom, and after 15 years working in the plant, the president left word because I was on shift work. He wanted to see me and thought he was going to fire me or something. And I go in there and he says, Joe, I want to promote you to the office, inside sales. So I moved in there and I worked my butt off. And finally, Rachel had problems with her heart. She had a bad heart attack. She stayed in ICU, is that what you call
intensive care unit?
Yeah, 28 days. I didn't know if she would survive or not. And then when she got out, I figured we got to get away from the big city. So she agreed. We flew down one weekend. Her brother came, he had found a house. We'd come down to see it, and she didn't like it because the bathroom there's no walls or nothing, they're just two pillars. She said, I'm not going to go to the bathroom while you're laying down in bed, seeing me pee. So that was it. I was just up the street here. So I find out about this house had been on sale and didn't sell. So I give the guy a call. And this was, he was a builder, he was a fireman, but he'd build a house on the side. So he says, I call him one, he says, it's not for sale now. He says, build it as a retirement home. So, but he says, money talks, so I like the house. It's a big bungalow, 2-car garage, everything in it. And I ended up buying it. Not sorry I did, because the money that I got for the one in Toronto was a lot more than I paid for this one here.
Yeah.
So.
And this was in the 90s.
And it was a nice, quiet area out here. We got about 10 RCMP up the street, so don't worry about break-ins or anything, because
so you retired.
Cars are up and down, RCMP cars.
You retired back in New Brunswick.
Yeah, that's 27 years ago.
Yeah. So you got married in 1953.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, you started having kids.
Yeah. Well, we wanted kids. We got married at 19.
What were they like as children?
Well, typical children, go to school and get into trouble here and there, but nothing major.
Oh, you must have some good stories about each one of them.
Well, Bruce used to go to school, and Mom used to take him to school. She'd come back, and then the teacher would call, or some of the school people. They said, Bruce is not in school. She'd go back and find him sitting on a curb halfway to school. I don't like school. Another time he got into a fight. The kid's father comes over and he grabs him. And then I phoned the father. Don't you ever touch my kids. I said, any problem, call me. I'll look after it. Oh, I'm sorry. I would have gone there and punched him in the head. I had a temper, boy. And then that's pretty well it. Mom worked very hard. She got a job with Carlton Cards. She used to pick up 5 or 6 girls, and she was in charge to go from store to store. And then she'd come home, make supper, and all the housework. It was hard.
She was a saint.
And then she wasn't feeling too good. She was at a store. She drove herself to the hospital and just got in and had a massive heart attack. She stayed there 28 days, I guess, all piped up.
Do you have some memorable stories or some funny stories from when you were dating?
No, it was just a typical country area. We'd go tobogganing. There's some nice hills and a lot of snow. And we were 3 couples, with girlfriends, and my cousin Ernie and my friend Fred Richard. They're in Gatineau now.
What was Rachel's favorite thing to do on a date?
Who's that? What's that?
What was Rachel's favorite thing to do on a date?
Oh, she liked to cook. She never stopped for a minute. Always on the go. And then when I bought her a new Buick there, boy, she was up in the sky. She was so happy. So I finally got to the point, I think she was 83, and we're 82. She couldn't drive anymore, so we had a good talk, and I agreed to stop driving.
I guess.
What
are some of the biggest challenges you've dealt with raising kids in the 50s and 60s in a big city?
It's make enough money to survive. Mostly work double shifts. I do 5 double shifts in a week. Sunday I was just dead. Mom wanted to go for a car ride. I was too tired. They used to call it brown bagging. They'll get a brown bag and put a sandwich in there, a cookie or an apple. That was it. You work 16 hours. I was pretty skinny.
What happened?
Well, then I would move in the office. I think I gained about 30 pounds. I lost it again within the last year or so.
Oh yeah.
I got 6 buttons off my belt.
Is there any stories that you have that are like any fun stories of mischief you got up to in your youth or in Toronto when you had the kids?
Now, the only thing, I used to walk 4 miles for 35 cents an hour, work 9 hours a day, building dikes. That was I was only 15 and a half, I guess. There was no work at all.
When you were young, did you ever get in any sort of trouble?
No.
I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations is gone on all this stuff, so you're good.
Yeah. Well, no, we used to, same gang, 3 or 4, with our girlfriends. There was nothing to get involved in out there in Memramcook. There's nothing. It was a service station, so you can't get in trouble there. We used to go see the hockey games in St. Joseph. We'd wait till the second period started, then you could get in free. But this bootlegger used to go out there and he'd stand by the door, and we were 5 or 6 kids. How much for the gang? He'd say a quarter, and flip a quarter, and we all ran in. Yeah, Gessner was cleaning the ice, and he'd open a window and he'd throw the snow out. We had no money. We'd walk in there and he'd throw in snow. We'd slide in. He'd chase us with a shovel. He got us a few times, but oh yeah, well, it cost 10 cents to get in. Nobody had money.
That's funny.
Yeah, there wasn't really that much.
What sort of mischief did your kids get into when you were a parent?
Well, Doug was okay. I had to straighten him out because I gave him a car, a Pontiac, 4-door hardtop. I bought a new one, and he's running around with his wife to the bar, spent all his money there. So after having the car for about 3 months, I said, "You ever check the oil?" No, he said, "Put gas." I checked the oil thing and there's no oil in it. You didn't know, oh, you've got to put oil in there. I said, you got to burn the motor. And my mommy, about 10 years ago, I came in, Georgette was here to visit from Edmonton. And I wasn't going to stay in the kitchen and talk to them. I said, I'm going out. Where are you going? I said, I turned around. Oh, I said, I'm going to buy you a new car, a new Buick. She thought I was joking. I went to McDonald's, I bought her a new Buick. It was in the showroom. I come back, she says, where you been? I said, McDonald's. She said, what for? I said, I bought you a new car. She thought I was joking.
It was outside.
So Georgette said, did you really buy it? I said, yeah. They wouldn't believe it. Next day, I said, let's go pick up your new Buick. Well, she said, you're lying again. Right there. They took it out of the showroom and she drove it home. I never seen her so happy.
What are some values or lessons that you'd like that you've tried to instill in your children?
Well, to be honest, doesn't matter what. I was cranky a lot when they were young because I worked too hard, too many hours. I'd come home and sleep for 5 or 6 hours, and then they'd come in yelling and fighting, typical kids. I used to crack down hard on them, yell at them. I never hit them, but Rachel was good. She used to take them to a little restaurant. They were selling fries. She'd put the youngest Suzanne in the wagon. She'd walk about a mile. She'd buy them each French fries, and they were happy. Me, I was working 16 hours with one sandwich. And when I first couple of weeks, I arrived there. I rented a room, $3. I had a jar of jam, little jar of jam. I got paid 49 cents back then. And I'd go there and walk the street. It was hot. Because there's no sense staying in my room. It was so hot. I used to hang my head out the window to get fresh air. The landlady was a Jewish, and she used to come over and dust or make my bed, and I had nothing to eat. So one night at 7 o'clock, she came with a plate of little round potatoes. She handed it to me, and I ate so fast. I called it, here's your plate.
She didn't have a chance to leave.
I was so starved.
The plate was empty before she get
Oh,
down the
God.
hall.
I only weighed 138 pounds, I guess. And that went on for at least 2 years. They used to put a dime in a milk bottle, put it at the door. I used to go out there and take the dime, go buy a loaf of bread, 9 cents. I'd eat the bread. I had my little jar of peanut jam. Yeah, it wasn't easy. See, if you knew somebody and you could talk to somebody, but I had nobody. I knew.
And you knew very little English at the time,
Yeah,
too.
well, yeah.
You mentioned one of the main differences in the times is being from the East Coast, the Maritimes. When you were young in the 1930s and 40s, lobster was not the food it is today.
No, you used to take lobster and put it in the garden. I mean, when I was very small, we used to buy lobster. The guy with a little truck or fish, a pail of fish, I think it was 25 cents. We made sure we all took the biggest pig in the pail. I cleaned a lot of fish. We'd all sit there, all the kids would clean 2 or 3 pails, put them in the barrel, put a lot of salt. So we had something to eat for the winter.
In the winter.
We put the barrel of fish in the little entrance where it was cold.
You told me about how when you would bring lobster meat to school
Oh
for your
yeah.
lunch.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody's making fun of you. You had lobster in your 2 pieces of bread. Back then, lobster, nothing. We used to drive out there and the smell of a lobster was awful. They put that all in their garden. It was like fertilizer, right?
Well, I remember there was stories of the petitions of prisoners arguing to not get fed diets of just lobster because it was the cheapest, poorest food. It was viewed.
Back then, they were big for lobster because it wasn't as popular as now.
It was
It
cheap
is
food.
now.
Can you share a particularly memorable family vacation or gathering?
Well, we couldn't afford to go on holidays. There's one time we went to Belleville Beach, Shediac, with the school bus. And I didn't know the difference. I ate a big meal, and then I ran in the water. Water up to my neck and come out sick as a dog. I didn't know you did.
Cramped up.
Yeah. The bus driver was laughing his head off.
Because when you were a little boy.
Well, yeah, I was 7, I guess, or 8.
And when you were in Toronto with your family, did you manage to go on any vacations then?
Well, yeah, I came down here practically every second year after I got established. I used to drive, and it'd take me about 18 hours.
You told me some stories about when you had your Chrysler Newport.
Oh, yeah.
And you would ask Rachel how fast she thought you were going while covering the speedometer. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, well, it was a big car, and sometimes she'd fall asleep, drive. Bruce was in the back. She said, "Dad, she's sleeping. Open it up." Well, that thing had a 400 cubic inch motor, eh? We flew down. Yeah.
So you'd come down to your home province every other year, pretty much?
Yeah, well, I'd come down for 2 weeks. It took me 15 years before I got 2 weeks holiday. So it was hard coming down for a week, eh? And the 3 kids were young, so we didn't come down for a few years. And then, but I had seniority in there. I was always the first one to pick my holidays on the calendar, right? So I always took the last 2 weeks of July, or maybe sometime a week in August, eh? And coming down, the heat and everything, no air conditioning back then, eh? You'd have your windows down and 3 kids fighting in the back seat. So we always pull one of them up front with us. We'd stop in Montreal sometime. When Rachel's sister got married, she always wanted us to stop, sleep overnight at her place. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about what Rachel was like as a mother?
I wouldn't want to have another woman. She could work 2 jobs, clean the house. It was always very clean. Look after the kids. She used to make kids' clothes. Suzanne, if she used to buy, made herself hats, and she finally got to be a good sewer at the end.
She was very mischievous and playful and fun.
Oh yeah, she liked kids. We used to come down to the cottage, Shediac, and then we'd look for her. She had disappeared, taking the car, and about 10 kids in the car. She'd go up the road and buy everybody an ice cream, which was a big thing for kids 7 or 8 years old. Yeah, she didn't mind splurging. And me, I was just the opposite.
Some might say that you're the opposite because of how she was. And
Yeah,
she's
well,
the way she was because of how you were.
Yeah, she'd go to a restaurant with a bunch of girls, and she always first in line to pay.
She had a big heart.
Yeah, didn't take her long to make friends either.
What was your proudest accomplishment of your career?
Well, I stayed with the same company close to 50 years. And when they went bankrupt, my friend that I had trained at Anchor got together with the accountant and the vice president, and they bought the plastic division in North Toronto. And they phoned me, I think it was the first week of January, see if I'd come back with them and help them set up the inside sales. And I said, I can't. He says, why? I said, we're leaving for Cuba, but tomorrow for 2 weeks. Well, he said, can you go back? Can you come back? I said, for how long? Oh, he said, 2-3 weeks. Just to set it up, he said. Once I got there, I worked for 4.5 years. And one day he called me up. I had flew down here, bought this house. Nobody knew it. And he called me. He said, Joe, I want you to see you in my office. You're one of the 3 owners. So I said, yeah, I'll be there. And the phone was ringing. Anyway, 5 minutes after, he called back and said, Joe, I told you to come down and see me. He said, I want to see you right away. So I said, I'll be there once the phone starts ringing. Anyway, 5 minutes after, he goes, what took you so long? I said, well, all your customers are phoning. Am I supposed to turn down business? Oh, you'll never change, he says. So we sat there, and he says, what are your long-range plans? That's after 4.5 years. I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So he says, I said, you really want to know? So he's sitting at his desk with rollers on his chair. I looked at him. I said, I'm leaving in 3 weeks. He said, what? What are you talking about? Where are you going? I said, going back down east where it's nice and calm. His wife had a bad heart attack, and I said, you just got to get her away from this hassle. And he says, you bought a house? He says, yeah, when? He says, you remember 3 months ago I took a Friday and a Monday off? Oh, yeah. Well, I says, I went down and bought the house. You never told anybody? He said, not a soul. I said, you don't tell me what's going on in your office. So what do you want to know my business for? So when I said that, he put his 2 feet against his desk and he pushed himself away and he banged his back of his head against the wall. I thought he'd kill himself. And he said he had another plan. He'd give me an increase and other things. Well, I said, I don't need it now. I said, 3 weeks. I said, I was going to give you 2, but you called me down here and you wanted to know my plan. I says, now you know it. And then when I left, before I left, about a month before, the president come out in the hall. He's looking at me in my office, and he says, your turn will come. I said, what do you mean my turn will come? He says, I'll give you hell like I give the other. I said, the first time you try to give me hell, I see, you see that door? You look like that. I says, I'll be out the door before you finish your little speech. That was the owner. He was a 6'4", 230 pounds.
Yeah, that's good, but you knew your value.
I couldn't say that before, but I knew there's no way he was going to give me hell.
Yeah, well, you knew your value.
Well, I never complained or anything, but...
In your 90 years, do you have any regrets or things you wish you had done differently in your life?
Oh, because, maybe I shouldn't have stayed with the same company that long. Because nowadays, they seem to change jobs every 2-3 years. They go where the money is. If they're offered $10-20 more a week, they switch. Back then, if you had a job, the check wasn't bouncing every month, you had it made. I'd bought a little house in good area, good district, and I was happy. I was about 8 miles from work. I never made big money, but check never bounced.
What's one piece of advice you would give if you were given the opportunity to talk to yourself at a younger age?
Well, maybe look for a better job, maybe try to improve yourself. But once I was established at that job, you get to know people across Canada on the phone, and I'd say 99% are nice to talk to. Like the guy with Nestle outside of Ottawa invited me, I don't know how many times to go out there. And he said, before you leave, you'd have your full car of coffees. I never went.
Is there anything you would like to say to future generations of your family who might be watching this?
Well, don't throw your money away, because as you get older, everything increases. And if you want to have a happy last few years, you need the money, because everything goes up. And if you haven't put a few bucks away, you're going to suffer. When I was paying 9 cents a loaf of bread in Toronto, well, over here it's what, $5? Yes, I'm paying a loaf of bread. So that shows you how fast the price goes up, eh?
Yeah.
It's not the same type of life at all.
What would you say is the key to living a happy life?
Well, you got to get along with your wife and kids. Your wife is number one. Why stay married if you're going to fight all the time, eh? So walk away. It's not a life to fight every day, eh? You're not happy, you're miserable.
What's something that you miss most about Rachel?
What's that again?
What's something that you miss most about Rachel?
Well, her kindness. She was very kind. She'd do anything for anybody. I mean, she liked children. She was gone, and then all the grandkids got kids, eh? Something she would have given anything to see the little girls in nice pretty dresses, eh? That's what she liked the most. Yeah. I didn't think I'd ever reach 90. Right now it's really tough because I fall once or twice a week. I get stitches in the head, busted elbow, and my knees. I just stand up, and all I went, boom. I start spinning, I go down.
You look good still for 90.
Well, somebody told me, you don't look 90 well. I said, I don't look in the mirror too often.
What's one of your favorite jokes to tell?
Yeah. This guy went to the tavern, and he got pretty drunk. He walked out the door, he fell. 10 feet, he fell again. He fell like 4 or 5 times before he could make it to bed. Next morning, his wife gets up, he says, "Where were you last night?" Oh, he said, "Drop in for a couple of beers." He says, "Why?" He said, "They just delivered your wheelchair." He had left his wheelchair in the tavern. That's why he had such a hard time getting home.
I'd like to know if you could tell the story about what happened to your boat that you had in Toronto.
My who?
You had a boat in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell the story what happened with that?
Yeah, well, I went to Weston and saw a nice blue and white boat. Windshield would open and a nice trailer, 18-footer EV. And went there and I bought it. Took it down the lake. I backed in. Bruce was with me. Unhooked it, parked the car, and Bruce, he's making all kinds of signs there. I forgot to put the plug in. It was half full of water. So I hooked it up, and I had a hard time pulling it out because the wheels were wet and spinning. There must have been 100 gallons of water in there. Another time we went fishing in Belleville, the Air Force Base there.
Yeah.
Cam used to be there. So we got 6 or 7, 8, or maybe 8. Anyway, we went, start fishing. Geez, everybody had a bite. Small bass, small bass. First thing, boat jerked. Somebody had put a line to catch fish, eh?
Yeah.
A prop got a
Oh no.
ball in that. And then we stopped fishing, tried to pull that. The net is very, very sharp. It damaged our hand, we were bleeding. And then it was right across, a long ways, it was 400 feet. Anyway, we were looking for a knife. Nobody had a knife. We couldn't cut anything. So I had, a couple of weeks before, I had put some worms in a jar. So we were looking on the panel on the side there. Somebody put so we broke the glass. Mike took his pants and his shirt off. He leaned headfirst by the prop, and he rubbed about 5 minutes. He'd come out, spit water, and finally, he cut the
Cut the line off.
The line off, and then water problem. Take it out, we'd take turns, eh? And then finally started the motor, and with all that net in there. So we made it to shore, and then we hooked on, and when we pulled the water was just pouring up for 10 minutes. The planes go by, the kids yelling, over here, as a big jet was going to land on that lake. Yeah, we had some guy, Cammy's neighbors had gone over 100 miles to fish bass, eh?
Yeah.
And then we got to Belleville, we pulled in the yard, and Mike cleaned them all up. The neighbor arrived, any bass? No, he said, I couldn't catch no bass at all. So Mike says, we got about 18. So where do you get that? She said, over here, by the Air Force Base. And there I am, he said, going 100 miles away, no bass, you guys got, they were with 3 pounds, nice size, eh?
Yeah. What's a story where, do you have a story where you remember having the most fun you had with your kids when they were little?
Well, we went tobogganing, and then we go sit in the park in Toronto. Now it's all built up, eh? Big hill, and the lake was there. Used to bring a lunch. It was so hot in the house, we couldn't stay there. Like Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. Yeah, because they were all young, and there are a lot of things Mom didn't know about kids, and there's nobody to teach her, and we kind of self-taught bringing up those kids.
Yeah, I remember hearing some stories about how you had the kids in hockey, and there was a park just behind your house.
Yeah.
The kids ever play hockey outdoors there?
Well, yeah, we used to go out there. There's an old hockey rink. There was more snow in the rink than outside. The boards were about an inch apart. You could see outside. I used to drive Bruce and Doug. Doug wasn't very good on his skates, but Bruce got to be really good because he had a coach in Midget. We practiced him every Saturday morning before hours. And then Doug used to break his glass every game. He'd go in there and he'd tie the glasses back, and there was one guy, minister's son, he'd come over, and every time he'd give him an elbow, and the glass would split right down the middle.
I remember hearing a story about there being one kid that was particularly rough with all the other little kids.
Yeah.
And you might have laced up your skates. And
There was a rink behind. And I used to go out there because I was shift work. So I'd go there, play with the kids, eh? They're all small, 12, 13, 14. And this guy arrives, can I join in? I said, yeah. So he was a good skater, but my God, he'd pull over the kids. He's like Eddie Shack. Didn't care how old they were, and he kind of backed out. So I told the kid, he was 12 years old. I said, when he comes, move up. That means he's got to come on my side. Yeah, you wouldn't hurt. Oh, no, he wouldn't hurt you. Just move up. You what? Come on my side, and I gave him the hip. That was his last skate. He hobbled off and got in, changed his skates. He left. I never seen him again. He said, you hit him pretty hard. Well, I said, he was pulling all the other kids. I mean, a grown man who was 6 feet tall, 170 pounds.
Yeah, taste of his own
And
medicine.
he was a good skater. He didn't have to knock every kid. He was showing off. I told the kid beside me, I'll fix him. I said, it'll be the last time. I'd never seen him again. Well, I was fairly big then.
Thank you for doing this. Is there anything else you'd like to say to anyone who might be watching?
No, that's pretty well it.
All right. Happy 90th.
Thank you. Thank you.